We begin with the aspiration and action bodhicitta recitation. So this is what we begin with always, whether done in Tibetan, done in English. This is always where we begin. Dala dhamma jebe da no par jebe ge tarpa dan tham je gembe bardu jobra jeba tham je gi se jebe ma nang ka dang nyam pe sen chen tham je de wa dan den dung yang dan de ne du la na me pa yang da pra zo pe chang ju rim po je Topra ja da la dangwa jebe da no bar jebe geng tarpa dang tom je gembe bardu chopra jeba tham je gizu jebe ma nang ka dang nyambe sen chen tam je de wa dang den dung ya dang de ne du la na me pa yang da bra so be jan ju Bhajan Tombra Nala Dhamma Jebe Da Nobar Jebe Ge Tarpadan Tamje Gembe Bardu Jobra Jeba Tam Jegis Jebe Mo Nanka Dan Nyampe Senjen Tamje Dewa Dan Den Dunga Dan Nerdu Lana Mepaya Dabra Sobe Janju Rimboje Dobra De Je Sama Gege Bardu Lunga Yisum Gewala Go Mashi Bardu Lunga Yisum Gewala Go Du Derine Sundene Masanta Samge Bardu Lunga Yisum Gewala Go. Then bottom of page 5. Sangye Jodan Soge Chonam La Chanchu Bardu Dani Kapsu Je Dagi Jinsu Gebe Sonange Drala Penche Sangye Dubrashu Sangye Jodan Soge Chonam La Chanchu Bardu Dani Kapsu Je Dagi Jinsu Gebe Sonange Drala Penche Sangye Dubrashu Sangye Jodan Soge Chonam La Chanchu Bardu Dani Kapsu Je Dagi Jinsu Gibe Sonange Drala Penche Sangye Dubra Jo Manang Kadang Nyampe Senjen Tamje Dewa Dang Dewe Gidan Dambara Gyurji Dungyao Dang Dungyao Gi Gyudan Dewa Gyurji Dungyao Mepe Dewa Dame Dewa Gyurji Nerin Chadang Nidang Drewe Tang Nyong La Nepara Gyurji Manam Kadang Nyampe Senjen Tamje Dewa Dang Dewe Gyudan Dembara Gyurji Dungyao Dang Dungyao Gi Gyudan Dewa Gyurji Dungyao Mepe Dewa Dang Mi Dewa Gyurji Nerin Chadang Nidang Drewe Tang Nyong La Nepara Gyurji Manam Kadang Nyampe Senchen Tamje Dewa Dang Dewe Gyudan Dembara Gyurji Dungyao Dang Dungyao Gi Gyudan Dewa Gyurji Dungyao Mepe Dewa Dang Mi Dewa Gyurji Nerin Chadang Nidang Dewe Tang Nyong La Nepara Gyurji Manang Kadang Nyampe Senchen Tamje Dewa Dang Dewe Gyudan Dembara Gyurji Dungyao Dang Dungyao Gi Gyudan Dewa Gyurji Dungyao Mepe Dewa Dang Mi Dewa Gyurji Nerin Chadang Nidang Dewe Tang Nyong La Nepara Gyurji Bajra Samaja Bajra Samaja Bajra Samaja Malu Semjen Gungi Gungi Richi Dude Pungje Mise Jumse La Onam Malu Jishin Kengyurpe Jumden Koje Nirde Sheshu So Argyam Padya Pushpe Dube Aloge Gende Nevede Shabda Prade jaso ha sashi buju jushing medodam Lira lingshi ninde gemba di sanje shingla mikde bulwa ye Rugo namda shingdu jopara shu Jaze wada chuching shabadang jisu yirang kuzing sowa ye Gewa chungse dagi chi sakpa tamche zobe changju jirngo. The practitioner should sit on a comfortable cushion, directing the eyes to the tip of the nose, and placing the nose in line with the navel. The shoulders are level, the tongue is joined to the palate, and the teeth and lips are placed at ease. Having relaxed the exhalation and inhalation of breath, little by little, free from effort, the breath exhales and inhales just as it is. In this way, one is well seated in the Bodhisattva posture. One should contemplate the difficulty of obtaining the freedoms and advantages, impermanence and death, karmic cause and effect, and the faults of samsara. From the mother of the victorious ones, the Paññāparamita Sutras, it is said, friends, to become a human is rare, a perfect state of leisure is scarce, liberation from samsara is rare. Since it is so, do not waste your efforts, for later you will surely be filled with regret. Even though one has obtained such a body, such an existence of freedoms and advantages, this is not permanent. From the Sutra of Auspicious Signs, it is said, who knows if death will come as soon as tomorrow? Therefore, one must apply oneself this very day. With that great commander, Lord of Death, I have no treaty of friendship. From the bottom of page 5 in our meditation manual, to be liberated from the sufferings of samsara and generate the motivation thinking, I go for refuge in the three jewels and will practice the meditation and recitation of Bhagavan Vajrasattva. 。 Continuing on page 6. You are the yidam above your head on a full moon. This Ahung and Vajra instantly transform into Bhagavan Vajrasattva. His exalted body is white like the peak of a snow mountain touched by the rays of the sun. His legs are crossed with his two hands. The right holds a vajra at his heart, and the left holds a bell resting on his hip. He is adorned with various jewel ornaments. At his heart center, in the middle of a moon, this is a hung surrounded by the 100-syllable mantra. From this hung, light rays emanate, clearing the obscurations of sentient beings. Streams of elixir are invoked from the hearts of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. They dissolve into the hum. From there, a stream of elixir descends, flows through his body. Emerging from the tip of his right big toe, the stream enters the crown of your head, and all the collections of misdeeds, obscurations, and transgressions from beginningless samsaric lifetimes are washed away like dirt by water, and exit from the lower orifices of your body. This stream of elixir fills you from below, swirling upwards, then focusing on the hung syllable by the mantra at the heart of the Bhagavan. Recite the mantra. During the recitation of the Vajrasattva mantra, try to remember what the four powers are: the power of regret, the power of refuge or relying on Vajrasattva, the Guru, the power of the remedy, which is the recitation and meditation, and the power of resolve. As you do this recitation with the visualization, try to feel the body, try to feel yourself basically, feeling lighter and lighter, and less burdened, and less burdened, and less burdened. All that which is heavy and burdensome, feel all of them draining out of your body. Bhadra Sada Samaya Manubala Yabada Denapati Dadameva, Sudogama was a Bogama, Nonatamiva, Samazil, Savakama Sucham, Jerum Saram Guru Hong Ha, Bangman Samatanaga, the Bezama, Majabezam, Masamayasatu. Bhadra Sada Samaya Manubala Yabada, Denapati Dadameva, Bhadra Sada Samaya Manubala Yabada, Denapati Dadameva, Sudogama. Chidamjra Angoro Hong Ha Ha Bhagavan Samatara Bazara Sada Samaya Manupalayam Bazara Sada Samaya Manubalaya Bazada Denopade Sudam Subway. Bazara Sada Samaya Manupalayam Bazada Sudam Subway. Bazara Sada Samaya Manupalayam Bazara Sada Samaya Manupalayam Bazada Bazara Sada Samaya Manupalayam Bazada Denopate Sudam Subway. Deda me bawa sudoga me bawa suboga ya me bawa nara de me bawa sawa me bawa sawa kama sunja me chanja. Wow. Bazara sada samaya manu bala ya bazara da teno pati da tere sudoga me suboga ya me bawa nara de me sawa Bazara sada samaya manu bala ya bazara da teno pati da tere sudoga me suboga ya. Bazara sada samaya manu bala ya bazara da teno pati da tere sudoga me suboga nara de me sawa Bazarama Memunja Bazarbawa Mahazamaya Sado Bazar Samaya Madapaya. Ha 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 Bhagavan Sabata Kata Pesama Pesama Mahasamaya Sato Bazara Sata Samaya Anurato Mebo Savaside Mebaja Savakama Sucha Mecheram Seram Kuru Ha 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 Bhagavan Sabata Kata Bazara Sato Samaya Manubalaya Bazara Denopati Bazara Sada Samaya Manubalaya Bazara Denopati Dero Mevo Sudogama Subome Chedam Sri Anguru Hong Ha 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 Bhagavan Savata Kata Pesama Jabezemo Masamaya Sato Bazara Sada Denopati Dero Mevo Sudogama Subome Ha 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 Bhagavan Savata Kata Pesama Jabezemo Masamaya Sato Bazara Sato Samaya Manubalaya Savaside Mebaya Savakama Sujame Chidam Sranko, Dedo Meba Suto Kayameba, Supokayameba, Nurameba, Savasade, Savakama Sujame Chidam Sranko, Bajra Sato Samayama Nubalaya Bajara Sato Tenopati Tash, Dedo Meba Suto Shame, Suposhame. Bazara Sato Tenopati Tash, Do Meba Washuto Shame, Suposhame. Bazara Sato Samaya Manopalaya Bazara Tenopati Terame Sutome Subome Umbajra sato samaya manu balaya bada. So dogaya me bo so bogaya me bo naro do me wa so wasile me menja so mo kama so chame diram sa ko Umbajra sato samaya manu balaya baza da de no bade de mo so do kama so bogaya me bo naro do Chidamsra Guru Hong Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Samadana Kadam Sama Vimujam Venerable Mahasamaya Sato. To the top of page 8. I am ignorant and bewildered. I have transgressed and broken my samayas. O Guru Protector, grant me refuge. The Bhagavan grants his assent. You should then have faith that he responds with, child of the family, your broken samayas, negativities, and obscurations are clear. Finally, the Bhagavan dissolves into you, becoming inseparable from your own body, speech, and mind. You then rest in meditative equipoise on the meaning of the union of appearance and emptiness. So according to this manual, when we began this, we were already in the form of a idam. So now when Guru Vajrasattva dissolves into you, you take on now the appearance in the form of Guru Vajrasattva. And let your mind rest on the meaning of the union of appearance and emptiness. This form of Guru Vajrasattva that you have now appears vividly like a rainbow in the sky. A strong, clear rainbow in the sky. Although appearing vividly, yet is without substantiality, without essence. Or if you want to update the simile, think of it as the things that appear on your screen. Clear images, but without any substantiality. Clear and distinct and vivid, but no essence, no substance. Now, the first of the fivefold Mahamudra, which is the cultivation of bodhicitta, Kyoba Rinpoche says on page 14, if the steed of love and compassion does not run for the benefit of others, it will not be rewarded by gods or humans. Attend earnestly, therefore, to this foundational attitude. And so we need love and love and compassion needs to run for the benefit of others. And that one, you can understand, run for the benefit of others, to be running towards the result, towards the goal of Buddhahood. And so if you have a horse, which is what a steed is you have a very strong horse, meaning you have very strong love and compassion. But if your love and compassion is not running for the benefit of others, if it is not running towards attainment of Buddhahood, then it will not be rewarded, it will not be praised. And literally here, the imagery is like it will not be, it will not gain kind of like the approval, this is a horse race. It will not get the cheers, it will not get, the gods and humans to cheer for you, to reward you. And so you have to attend to this foundational attitude. And of course, we begin the practice by already reciting, chanting the aspiration bodhicitta and action bodhicitta. And here again, in this section, this text gives us some other words, but very similar, slightly different, of aspiration and action bodhicitta again. So on page 20 is the aspiration bodhicitta specific to this text here. So together we generate this. O enemies who bear hatred towards me, and all of us obstructors who would harm us, and the mandala of Mara, the dark forces that create disharmonious conditions and obstruct the attainment of liberation and all-knowingness. May all sentient beings, as numerous as space, especially our Father and Mother, those not yet liberated from the ocean of suffering that is samsara, be liberated. Those not yet freed from the bondage of defilements, be freed. Those who have not yet found rest in the Shravaka vehicle or Pratyeka Buddha vehicle, be brought to rest. And those who have not yet fully transcended suffering, I will lead them to completely transcend suffering through the Mahayana. Then on page 23, until I reach the heart of awakening, I will apply my body, speech, and mind to virtue. For as long as I live, and from now until this time tomorrow, I will take into my experience this Mahayana profound path of the union of the creation and completion stages. Now on page 25, It says here creation stage has two parts, cultivating the idam deity and cultivating the guru. And so remember, when you see cultivating here, normally the word used is to meditate on. The usual translation is meditate on the idam deity and meditate on the guru. I think that translation, to meditate on, is too, at least in English, I think we've gotten used to it, and then the problem is just not just in language, but then what it communicates, and then what we think we should be doing. To meditate on has this connotation of a passive relationship with the object of what you're meditating, as if it exists out there, standing alone out there. And then you walk. Oh, you see it. I will meditate on. But it's not. It's interdependently arising, so you have to cultivate. The object, so to say, the idam, the guru, doesn't exist as an object for you to run into and say, oh, now I'll meditate on. Look at it, close my eyes. Oh, now on. My mind is on. And then mind now goes somewhere else. Oh, let me open my eyes. Look at it again. And close my eyes. Oh, now I'm meditating on. It's not like this. You have to cultivate. And even in terms of thinking of like, have a relationship with. Meditating on is almost like spying on, and that the other side, doesn't really care, like, oh, look at the scenery, and have a mental image of the scenery in your mind. It's more than that. To cultivate, to develop. Now, of course, we're not saying the deity. So here also to point out, we're not saying that the deity doesn't exist, or the guru doesn't exist. But we're saying that insofar as our awareness, our relationship with the deity, with the guru, that is something you have to cultivate. So it says, the guru becomes the Dharmakaya when we have seen the Dharmakaya. The guru becomes Sambhogakaya when we have experienced Sambhogakaya and Nirmanakaya, and so on and so forth, down to the guru. Just maybe slightly better than me. And that's because we are just also, our minds are slightly better than. Then no matter how much effort you put into practice, or you think you're putting into practice, it's just slightly better than me. Now, maybe that's what we need right now, to feel like, oh, Guru is just slightly better than me. But the four kayas then will not be achieved, Nirmanakaya, Sambhogakaya, Dharmakaya, Swabhavikakaya. That natural essence body, which is called the Swabhavikakaya, which is the three kayas inseparable, which is technically actually not a fourth, it's the three inseparable, but often called the fourth kaya, Swabhavikakaya. So here, as our precious Lord said, referring to Gyopa Jigten Sumgun, if with one's body the king of deities exalted forms, the stronghold of the unchanging ground is not seized, the retinue of Dakinis will not assemble. Attend earnestly, therefore, to this body as idam. And so we have to attend earnestly, we have to develop, we have to train in earnestness, in seeing, in relating to our body, our form, our appearance, as idam chakasambhara. As I mentioned very early, so try to remember this, that we all, in a way, have a mental, emotional image. We have an image, an actual image when we think of I, when we think of me. It has color, it has shape, it has form. And it's whatever version of this frozen in some time. 14-year-old, 27-year-old, 52-year-old, there is that. And then especially, when something traumatic, usually, not exclusively, but often when something traumatic or something threatening happens and makes you think of I, you think of I in relation to that image. And so one purpose of idam practice and why it's working with images and colors, sensory experiences. And also it says, like smell, for example, is very close to memory. So we are now transforming sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, actually. So idam practice is not just a transformation of appearance, of vision, of sight. It's a transformation of sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and thoughts, all into the state of deity of Chakasambhara. This is how we attend to. And then, of course, there is a liturgy, or these words that we use to give rise to this experience, this training. But we have to understand, right? What is it that we are cultivating? So that we don't cultivate it wrongly, mistakenly. So then, especially at the beginning of this idam, Gyopa Rinpoche emphasizes understanding this process of the appearance of the idam in stages to be the 5 manifest awakenings. The manifest awakening of emptiness, the manifest awakening of the sun and moon, the manifest awakening of the syllable, the manifest awakening of the symbol. Here the word mudra is used, but so mudra here means symbol. The symbol of is related to the seal of the king as a symbol of the king. So mudra also means seal, like this seal that you put on document. But the meaning, the power of the seal is that seeing the seal is like seeing the king. And so mudra also had the meaning of symbol, representative. So then what represents in the case of Chakasambhara is a vajra. Then the manifest awakening of fully perfected, exalted body, the form, the complete form of Chakasambhara. So these 5 manifest awakening is greatly emphasized because through this we can also begin to understand that when we died in our last life, that process of dying is actually the manifest awakening of emptiness. Then through the bardo, of wandering in the bardo, those are manifest awakening of emptiness. Stages leading finally to emptiness, and then from emptiness arising as the manifest awakening of the sun and moon. Now, through the bardo already, now at the gate of taking rebirth. So the manifest awakening of sun and moon is the coming together of the essence of father and mother, and then the manifest awakening of syllable, the seed syllable. That is the very subtle consciousness that will then take the sun and moon, sit on sun and moon, then manifest awakening of the symbol of the Vajra. That's the embryo. Conception, embryo, then the gestation period, through the 10 months called the passing through of the 10 bhumis of the path, and then appearing, born perfectly as Jagasamvara. Yeah. So now page 26. By reciting Shunyata Jnana Vajra Swabhava Atma Hang, meditate that all phenomena are emptiness, free from the extremes of conceptual elaborations. You can just listen, or you can chant along if you want. And as you listen, of course, you listen to these words. These words serve as verbal cues for what you are building, what you are cultivating. Within the state of emptiness, your own mind arises in the form of the syllable Hong, from which light radiates. From Yam comes a mandala of wind, from Ram a mandala of fire, from Vam a mandala of water, and from Lam a mandala of earth. Upon that from Sum comes Meru in nature, the 4 precious substances. Upon that from Bum becomes a multicolored lotus. Upon that from Hung comes a cross Vajra. Set on the multicolored lotus, from the vowels comes a moon, and from the consonants comes a sun. In the center of that light radiates from the letter Hong, clearing the obscurations of all beings and transforming them into the host of deities of Jaka Samvara. The light then gathers back and absorbs into the Hong, melting as bodhicitta. From this complete transformation, in a single instant, you are Jaka Samvara. You are co-emergent Jaka Samvara, meaning not just a single form, but the double form of the Lord and the Lady. His body is dark blue, pure and luminous like the color of a stainless sky. He has one face and three eyes, with fangs slightly bared. His left leg is bent, pressing on the left ear of Black Bhairava, and his right leg is extended, pressing between the breasts of Red Kalaratri. With his two hands holding a vajra and bell, he embraces the corn sword. His head is adorned with a cross vajra and a top knot of matted hair tied with silk ribbons, beautified with a wish-fulfilling jewel on the left side of his head. He is adorned with a crescent moon. His forehead is adorned with a garland of vajras and 5 dry scalps. A hanging garland of 50 fresh hairs is strung on human intestines. He is adorned with the 6 mudras and wears a tiger skin skirt. He possesses the 9 dramatic sentiments: amorous, heroic, repulsive, laughter, wrathful, terrifying, compassionate, majestic, and peaceful. In his embrace is the consort Bhagavati, red in color with one face and three eyes. Her fangs fully bared, her hair is loose. She wears a crown of 5 dry scalps and a hanging garland of 50 bone ornaments and a girdle of bone ornaments. From below comes the tinkling sound of bells. With her two hands, the right holds a 5-pronged vajra, and the left holds a skull cup of blood with which she embraces and offers to the Lord. She is adorned with the 5 mudras, naked and in inseparable union with the Lord. By the symbolic action of blazing rays of light from the Hung at his heart, the hosts of deities of the Chakra Samvara Mandala are invited from their natural abodes, having made outer and inner offerings. Recite Ja Hong Pam Ho, thereby hooking, drawing in, binding, and pleasing them, making them of one taste. Bless your crown with your throat with Ah, and your heart with Hum. Again from the Hung light radiates, inviting the 5 families with their retinues, having made inner offerings. Pray, may all you Tathagatas bestow empowerment. Having prayed thus, they bestow empowerment with Om Sarva Tathagata Abhishekata Samaye Shri Ye Hum. Your entire body is filled with wisdom elixir, and the excess liquid gathers firmly on the top of your head, and Akshobhya seals your crown. This deity is like a drawing in the sky, appearing yet without inherent essence, cultivated as clear yet without grasping. Its colors are distinct, like a rainbow in the sky. Its form is clear, like a reflection in a mirror. Its appearance is pervasive, like the moon's reflection in water. It should be known through these three main similes, or the 12 similes. Master Nagarjuna said, "Your body is not a hollow void, yet it is without flesh, bone, and blood. Like a rainbow in the sky, you manifest your exalted form." From the Guhya Samaja Tantra, it says, "Whoever cultivates my exalted form, whether as a magical illusion or as being like a dream, by cultivating in this way intensely, they will come to see my form directly." And finally, glorious Pamadrupa reminds us, cultivating the deity's form like a rainbow will help us abandon clinging to ordinariness. Therefore, one should single-mindedly cultivate the idam deity as the union of appearance and emptiness without grasping. So, again, right, our manual, our Fivefold Mahamudra manual comes from the 14th century. From this lineage holder, this throne holder, called Dhamaraja. Of course, that's a Sanskrit version of his name. So it's Chuki Gyalpo in Tibetan, Dhamaraja. And Chuki Gyalpo, among other things, he was a teacher, one of Lama Tsongkhapa's teacher, Lama Tsongkhapa, who then went on to become the founder of the Gelugpa lineage, the very influential, powerful Gelugpa lineage. Lama Tsongkhapa came from eastern Tibet, from Amdo to central Tibet, in search of teachers, in search of Dharma, before he went to pursue more philosophical studies and intellectual mastery and understanding, which he did. When he first arrived in central Tibet, he seemed to have gone to Kagyupa masters. So I think from the Karmapa, he took, I think, his novice monk's vows, if I'm not mistaken. Then he settled in Drigong for, I think, a year or 2 years. And there it is said that he practiced under the guidance of Dhamaraja, Choki Gyalpo, the author of our manual. He trained in Fivefold Mahamudra, in 6 yogas of Naropa. It's said that he also learned, I think, maybe Tibetan medicine, at least a little bit, from Drigong area, because Drigong also has a medical lineage. So Choki Gyalpo is the earliest surviving text we have right now of the Fivefold, arranged in this way, in this detailed manner. On the basis of that, then the next that we have is, I think, the next, or either one or two throne holders later, called Dondrup Gyalpo. That text we have, Dondrup Gyalpo's clarification of Choki Gyalpo's text. And then in the 16th century, now 3-4 generations further, we have Gyalwang Kunga Rinpoche's clarification of this text that we are using here. As I said yesterday, I think, one of the reasons I chose this text, even though in some ways you could say, oh, it's not as clear, it's not as clean, it could have been better edited, and so on and so forth, but one of the reasons I chose this text for us to focus on is that it, to me, symbolizes a stage of development in the lineage where the old early Kagyupa flavor is very much still there, and also beginning to transition into a more user-friendly text. And then eventually, it becomes more complex. The text and nature of written material is you can keep making it fancier and fancier and fancier. So anyway, in Kunga Rinpoche's text, he said, when you become weary of recitation, you should rest. And this is kind of an interesting statement, because So by 16th century, the idea is you will do the visualization as we did, and then very soon you start the mantra recitation. And the mantra recitation, there are visualizations to go along with the recitations. And then when you become weary of recitation, then you should rest. And it's in the context of resting that then he goes into a discussion of the meaning, the core issues that we should reflect on while resting, which is, to point out, different from the 14th century texts, the one that we are using, that actually gives this contemplations or reflecting on the meaning before mantra recitation. Actually, in fact, it gives it in a very brief way, right? What I read on page 31, today we kind of recited the visualization part, and then on page 31, the deity is like a drawing in the sky, appearing yet without inherent essence. All that. Then in our text, mantra recitation comes at the very end, and then after mantra recitation begins the next of the fivefold, cultivating the Guru. And it is more explicitly in Kyoba Rinpoche, 13th century text. Kyoba Rinpoche's instructions on practicing Idam Chakasamvara, the co-emergent Idam Chakasamvara. It is there that he goes into more details about contemplating, cultivating the understanding of what is cultivating clarity, what is being mindful of purity, what is stabilizing divine pride, and those three, right? Is done prior to mantra recitation. And then yesterday I shared that reading. He says, and then when you are done with the main part of cultivating the idam, then he says, in the post-meditation, there is mantra recitation, there is offering tormas, there is the activities that you add to in between sessions. So you see this kind of change in the actual muttering of mantra becoming more and more important in later developments. So Gunga Rinchen, the 16th century, anyway, even though the order is different, he places it as when you get tired reciting mantra, then you rest by meditating on this. Whereas in earlier traditions, it's like, no, you meditate this or you cultivate this. Then when you are become weary with that cultivation, with that meditation, then you can rest with mantra recitation. And then in, for example, Lama Tsongkhapa's emphasis, and I cite him because his works have been some of the earliest Tibetan Buddhist work translated into English is Lama Tsongkhapa's. So in Lama Tsongkhapa's writings on Vajrayana practice, he was very adamant. In fact, he kind of says, the main part in cultivating Idam is the cultivating of the Idam, and the recitation is given as a way to rest the mind when the mind becomes a little exhausted cultivating. And then he says, but these days, he goes, People rush to the mantra, and then when they become tired, what are they going to do? He says. He actually asks like this rhetorical question, Then when they become exhausted there, then what are they going to do? Now here, Kunga Rinchen says, he says, sometimes the creation stage is also explained through the terms used in the understanding of what's known as the three natures. About maybe 10 days ago, I already mentioned this, that probably current during Kyoba Rinpoche's time is some masters who are teaching creation stage practices, try to explain what is going on through the vocabulary that is found in the mind-only tradition, where they talk about the three natures. So what are the three natures? Is the imaginary nature, the dependent nature, and the perfected nature. So the analogy that is often given for how do you, which is which? How do you apply this? A very famous one is the analogy given is a very famous one is the snake that you think you see in the dark of night. So that's the usual example given to illustrate the three natures and which is which. And it said that maybe you are new to a place and you walk into a room, and as you walk in and it's dark, you think you see something, moving on the ground. And there's some light maybe from the outside, from the moon coming in, just enough for you to think, you see a snake. And then if you're convinced that there is a snake that is there on the far end of that room, and then fear may arise, or if you are a snake person, excitement may arise. And then you quickly shine a light to see, to get a better view of the snake. And when you do that, it turns out it's a coiled rope. And due to the moonlight, with maybe, leaves or whatever, causing some special effect to make you give rise to either fear or excitement when you see what you thought was a snake. So they say the rope itself is the dependent nature. The imaginary nature is the snake that you thought you saw. The perfected nature is that there was never a snake in the first place. And in fact, the rope, what you call a rope, is dependently arising from all these fibers put together, spun together, and therefore the realization of the dependent arising and experience, both the rope and the snake, that's the perfected nature. Yeah, so the master's teaching Vajrayana, teaching creation stage during that time, during Kyopa's time, during Gunga Rinchen, during Choki Gyalpo's time. And they sometimes use these three natures to explain. So sometimes some of them will say, this deity, this Yidam, is the imaginary nature. You are superimposing, because right now you're superimposing samsaric form samsaric experience, and it's causing suffering. Therefore, now you should superimpose Buddhic, samsaric, Buddhic, Buddha, Buddhic experience, Buddhic appearance. But in the end, it's imaginary, they say. And so you also need to let go. Now, of course, we also say you need to let go, but here Kyopa Rinpoche rejects that and say, no, it's not the imaginary. And in fact, Kyopa Rinpoche, so Kunga Rinchen here quotes Kyopa Rinpoche without saying directly, but he says, it is not the imaginary nature, because if something is not inherent in the fundamental nature, or if this is not part of its fundamental nature, it cannot be transformed by merely looking at it in that way. If it is not in its nature, merely looking at it that way doesn't make it so. That's a famous statement from the Gongqing, Kyopa Rinpoche's famous one-liners, compiled by his chief successor, spiritual successor, Drikung Lingpa. If it is not in its nature, no matter how you look at it, it's not going to make it so. In other words, Kyopa says, it would be futile, pointless to project a deity when your nature is not deity. And so that is not why we practice creation stage, because that would be like putting like a pink lenses, and then walk around going, oh, this world is pinkish, very nice, very nice. Then you're slapping labels, and then, as with labels fall off, when the power of the glue has worn off. And so it says it's not the imaginary nature, nor is it merely the dependent, as it is not exclusively determined by other conditions. Meaning, this deity is also not dependent nature. It is also not the dependent nature. And the fact of you being Buddha is also that's the bigger point. It's not the dependent nature. Meaning, like, if you look at it, right? So dependent meaning, like that rope, right? That serves as a basis for confusion to arise. Confusion of the snake, right? It's saying it's not exclusively dependent, because while other conditions are necessary there, it's not exclusively, meaning it has to be in its nature to start with, then together with contributing conditions, such as the way we understand how karma bear fruit. You need to have cause, and then you need to have dependent conditions. Then here it says, it is to be understood as the perfected nature. That the idam that you see yourself as, that is the perfected nature, because it has always been so. We're not creating anew. We are not slapping on. And this is not like affirmations. Oh, I'm beautiful. Oh, I'm good. Look at the mirror. You are good. No, it's deeper than that, is what this is saying. Now, of course, it's not saying you force yourself to believe this. Right? This is saying, this is how it is. Now, see if you can experience it. Do this, cultivate this with the intention of experiencing it as the perfected nature. So this is not meant to be dogmatic, that just because it says, well, it's not the, it's not the, imaginary, and it's not the dependent, it is the perfected, therefore it is. No, this would be the wrong way to relate to this. Right? Here is saying, this is how it is. And I get it. I get it that right now you think that it's the imaginary, or right now you think it's the dependent. But please know that it is not. It is the perfected. So now, as you cultivate, not like obsessively in front, but somewhere in the back of your mind, you should remember this is the perfected nature. But right now, at best, my experience is only at the level of imaginary or dependent. But know that if you put effort into it and intention, not just effort, right? Effort like, I got to practice harder, I got to practice harder, I got to practice harder. You have to give it intention. You have to lead it that way and say, how is this the perfected nature? How can I experience Jagasamvara? Not just as a projection that I am making, but a reality that is to be manifested. So today we stop here. In case you're like, when do we get to the mantra? When do they get to the mantra? I hope not, okay? That is just a secondary activity, so to say. Important, helpful, But the more fundamental things we need to experience first. So near Nipa's text, again at the very end, is the dedication. On page 78. By the virtues collected in the 3 times by me and the entirety of samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtues, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious Bodhi. Okay, ta-ta.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Bye-bye.
Gracias, Rinpoche.